The first thing Marisol Bennett noticed was not the police car, the flashing lights, or the small crowd forming beneath the white canopy of the gas station. It was the coffee she had left on the roof of her Lexus. Steam still curled from the paper cup as Sergeant Grant Mercer asked her to turn around and place her hands behind her back. For one strange second, Mari stared at that cup as if it belonged to someone else's afternoon. 20 minutes earlier, she had been thinking about scholarship speeches, traffic on Interstate 80, and whether she had remembered to bring the blue folder from the passenger seat. Now a patrol car blocked the front of her SUV. Another officer stood near the fuel pump, and the quiet town of Redwood Junction seemed to have stopped moving around her. "Sergeant," she said evenly, "I have answered every question you've asked. My registration is in your hand. My license is valid. What exactly am I being arrested for?" Mercer's expression tightened. He was a broad-shouldered man in his early 40s, the kind of officer whose uniform looked pressed even late in the day. His voice remained controlled, but something in it had hardened over the last few minutes. "We're still confirming the vehicle information. You need to cooperate while we sort this out." "I am cooperating." "Then turn around, please." The younger officer beside him, Noah Reed, shifted his weight. He had already checked Murray's license twice. He had also looked at the registration card and the insurance information on her phone. Each time, his uncertainty had grown rather than disappeared. Murray saw it. She had spent too many years attending military ceremonies, family briefings, relocation meetings, and long dinners beside people trained to hide concern. She knew what hesitation looked like. Around them, the gas station carried on in fragments. A refrigerator compressor hummed behind the convenience store wall. A delivery truck idled near the curb. Somewhere across the road, a leaf blower started and stopped. Two customers stood beside their cars pretending not to watch. Mari took a breath. She could have ended the uncertainty with one sentence. "My husband is General Nathaniel Bennett." She did not say it. Instead, she turned slowly and placed her hands behind her back. Mercer fastened the handcuffs without force. The metal was cool against her wrists. Nothing about the movement was dramatic, but that almost made it worse. The moment felt administrative, ordinary, as though a mistake could become official simply because someone had written it down and attached procedure to it. Noah looked again at the tablet in his hand. "Sergeant, the name matches the registration." "The database return doesn't," Mercer replied. "It might be the second surname." Mari turned her head slightly. "My legal name has included De La Cruz for 31 years. Some systems place it under D, some under B." Mercer exhaled through his nose. "Please face forward, ma'am." Mari did. A woman near pump 6 raised her phone, not obviously filming, but not hiding it either. Mari noticed, then looked away. She did not want an audience. She did not want a scene. She had spent most of her adult life making sure other military families felt seen without placing herself at the center of anything. Today, of all days, she had been scheduled to speak for 4 minutes at a scholarship dinner near Travis Air Force Base. Her remarks were about quiet service, spouses who changed careers 6 times, children who entered new schools every 2 years, families who packed kitchens into boxes and learned unfamiliar cities before the old one had stopped feeling like home. She had planned to say that dignity was often built in small moments no one applauded. Now she stood in handcuffs beside pump 4. Noah stepped a few feet away and keyed his radio. "Dispatch, Unit 12. Can you rerun Bennett? Marisol de la Cruz, California license ending 417. Static answered first. Mercer opened the rear door of his cruiser but did not touch Mari. "Have a seat while we confirm the records." She looked at him. "Am I under arrest or temporarily detained?" He paused for half a beat. "You're under arrest pending confirmation of identity and vehicle authorization." The words landed more heavily than the cuffs. Mari sat carefully in the back seat, turning sideways so her hands would not press against the seat. Through the open door, she could still see her coffee on the Lexus roof. Noah's radio crackled. "Unit 12, stand by." Mercer looked toward him. Another pause. "Unit 12, confirm full legal name of detainee." Noah read from the license. "Marisol de la Cruz Bennett. Date of birth, August 7th, 1972. The dispatcher did not answer immediately. Mari watched Mercer's face in profile. For the first time since the officers arrived, he seemed uncertain. Then the radio came alive again. Unit 12, we have a secondary federal dependent verification attached to that name. Please confirm whether subject identifies as spouse of Nathaniel Bennett. Noah looked through the open cruiser door at Mari. She said nothing. Mercer frowned. Nathaniel Bennett, who? The dispatcher spoke more slowly this time. General Nathaniel Bennett, United States Air Force, 4-star grade. Senior Pentagon assignment. The entire gas station seemed to lose its sound. Mercer's eyes moved from the radio to Mari. Noah lowered the tablet. The woman at pump 6 stopped pretending not to record. Mari remained seated in the back of the cruiser, shoulders straight, hands still secured behind her. She did not smile. She did not lift her chin in triumph. She did not offer Mercer the satisfaction of watching her become someone different simply because the system had attached a powerful man's name to hers. Mercer took one step closer. Mrs. Bennett, why didn't you tell us? Mari met his eyes. Would my license have been more valid if I had? He did not answer. Noah glanced at the clock on the dashboard. 5 minutes had passed since Mercer closed the handcuffs. Only 5. But in those 5 minutes, the same woman, the same car, and the same documents had somehow acquired a different weight in everyone's eyes. Mari felt something settle inside her then. Not anger, not fear. Something quieter and more durable. She had spent years helping people navigate institutions built from forms, rules, ranks, and assumptions. She understood that systems could make honest mistakes. She also understood that the measure of a system was not whether it never failed. It was what happened after someone realized it had. Mercer reached toward the key on his belt. We're going to get this cleared up. Mari watched him approach the cuffs. Good, she said. Then let's clear up all of it. 43 minutes before the radio changed the temperature of the entire gas station, Mari had been singing softly to an old song she remembered from childhood while the California hills rolled past her windows in dry gold folds. She was alone, which was unusual on event days. Normally someone from the Bennett Family Readiness Foundation traveled with her, carrying folders, checking names, reminding her which local sponsor needed a photograph and which student was too shy to come forward without encouragement. That afternoon, her program coordinator had stayed behind in Sacramento with a fever, so Mari had insisted she could manage one dinner without an entourage. Nathaniel had laughed when she told him, "You say that as if you ever travel with an entourage." 3 volunteers and a box of name tags is an entourage if they all ask questions at once. He had been in Washington, preparing for an evening briefing. Even through a phone screen, he had looked tired. 4 stars sat on his shoulders in official photographs, but to Mari he was still the man who forgot where he put his reading glasses and called from hotel rooms to ask whether the basil plant at home had survived. They had been married 29 years. Mari was born in Cebu City and moved to California at 19 after her mother accepted a nursing position in San Diego. Her early years in the United States had been filled with community college classrooms, late shifts at a medical records office, calls home scheduled around time zones, and the peculiar loneliness of knowing exactly what people were saying while still feeling that every room had rules nobody had explained. She learned those rules. Then she learned when they mattered and when they did not. She met Nathaniel at a charity fun run near Balboa Park when he was a young Air Force captain temporarily assigned to a joint program. He spilled orange sports drink on her white shoes, apologized 3 times, and offered to buy her a replacement pair she did not need. Mari told him he could make amends by helping carry boxes back to the organizer's van. He did. Years later, he still said that was the moment he understood she could not be impressed by titles. That quality had served them through moves across the country, long separations, new schools, changing assignments, and the quiet pressure that came with each increase in Nathaniel's responsibility. Mari never disliked military life. She disliked the idea that spouses were expected to disappear into it. So she built something of her own. The Bennett Family Readiness Foundation began at a kitchen table with 4 volunteers and a spreadsheet. Its first goal was simple: help newly relocated military families understand local schools, licensing requirements, childcare, and employment resources. Over the years, it expanded into scholarships, career mentoring, temporary housing assistance, and small emergency grants for families caught between relocation reimbursements. Mari refused to place Nathaniel's rank on the foundation website. "People should call because the program works," she always said, "not because they're impressed by my husband." That afternoon, the blue folder on her passenger seat contained the stories of 12 scholarship recipients. She had read every application twice. At 5:21 p.m., the low fuel warning chimed. Mari glanced at the navigation screen. Redwood Junction was 3 miles ahead, a small town she had passed many times but rarely entered. She had enough fuel to continue, but enough experience with California traffic to know that confidence about fuel levels was usually punished. She took the next exit. Redwood Junction looked like a town built around a road rather than planned around one. A tire shop, a family diner, a pharmacy, 2 low office buildings, and a strip mall sat beneath wide skies. The gas station at the corner had 6 pumps and a convenience store with faded advertisements taped inside the windows. Mari pulled up beside pump 4. She checked the time. If she left within 10 minutes, she would still arrive early. Inside the store, Janice Harlan was finishing a shift she had already described twice as one of those days. The card reader at pump 2 had stopped communicating with the register. A delivery invoice was missing a signature. The station's vehicle alert terminal, a third-party service used to flag unpaid commercial fuel accounts and disputed fleet cards, had been producing duplicate notifications since lunch. None of that had anything to do with Mari. But small problems have a way of gathering around the wrong moment. The bell above the door rang as Mari entered. Janice looked up from the register. She was in her late 50s, with reading glasses hanging from a chain and a pen tucked into her hair. "Evening." "Hi," Mari said. "Pump 4, please. And 1 coffee." "Card or cash?" "Card." Mari inserted her card. The terminal flashed, paused, then showed processing longer than usual. Janice frowned. "Machine's been acting strange all day." "That makes 2 of us," Mari said lightly. "My navigation tried to send me through a vineyard 10 minutes ago." Janice smiled despite herself. The terminal approved the transaction. Mari filled a cup with coffee and picked up a bottle of sparkling water. At the register, Janice glanced through the window toward the Lexus. "Nice car. It's comfortable on long drives." "New?" 2 years old. Another alert chimed from the small monitor beside the register. Janice's smile disappeared. She leaned closer to the screen. A line of text showed a dark luxury SUV, California registration, and a partial plate. The system labeled it "Account Verification Pending." The plate was not Mari's, but the final 3 characters were the same. Janice looked through the window again. "Ma'am, could I see your driver's license for a second?" Mari was surprised, but not alarmed. "For the fuel purchase?" "The system just threw an account flag. Probably nothing." Mari handed over her license. Janice typed the name exactly as she saw it, Marisol de la Cruz Bennett. The old software shortened it. Bennett, Marisol D. A second database connected to the station's fleet service returned an outdated address from 3 military moves earlier. Janice stared at the mismatch. This address isn't the same as the registration address in the alert. "Which alert?" Janice hesitated. "It's probably a system issue." Mari held out her hand for the license. "Then I imagine the system issue can be corrected without me." Janice returned it. Mari was not offended. She was in a hurry. She stepped outside, slid the card into pump 4, and began fueling. Behind the counter, the alert chimed again. Janice had been told by the station manager that any unresolved vehicle account warning should be reported to local dispatch if the customer was still on site. It was a new policy after several billing disputes involving commercial cards. She picked up the phone. "Redwood Junction, non-emergency?" she said. "This is Janice at Valley Fuel. I think your system may need to check a vehicle here." Outside, Mari watched the numbers climb on the pump and thought about her speech. She did not know that Janice's cautious call would be shortened in dispatch notes to 3 words: Vehicle ID Mismatch. She did not know that Sergeant Grant Mercer was less than 2 blocks away. And she had no idea that within minutes, a routine database error would ask everyone involved a much harder question than who owned a Lexus. Sergeant Grant Mercer saw the call on his dashboard while waiting at a red light beside the Redwood Junction pharmacy. Vehicle ID Mismatch, Valley Fuel customer on site. It was not an emergency. The dispatch code appeared in pale yellow rather than red, the sort of call usually resolved by checking a plate, asking a few questions, and leaving everyone mildly inconvenienced. Mercer had handled dozens like it. Officer Noah Reed, riding alone in the patrol car behind him, accepted the same call. "I'm 2 minutes out," Mercer told dispatch. "Copy. Caller reports dark Lexus SUV, pump 4. Possible account verification issue. No disturbance reported." That last sentence should have shaped everything that followed. No disturbance reported. But Mercer had spent the afternoon dealing with small problems that refused to stay small. A traffic complaint became a 40-minute argument over a driveway. A shop owner insisted a delivery van was blocking access when it was parked legally. His report queue was growing, his shift was running late, and his patience had narrowed without him noticing. By the time he turned into Valley Fuel, he was already thinking in terms of resolution rather than questions. Mary saw the cruiser reflected in the Lexus window before she heard it. A second patrol car entered behind it. She continued holding the fuel nozzle. Mercer parked at an angle several yards away and approached with deliberate steps. "Good evening, ma'am." "Good evening. This your vehicle?" Mary glanced at the Lexus, then back at him. "Yes." "May I see your driver's license and registration?" She hesitated only because the request seemed disconnected from anything she had done. "Of course. Can you tell me what the issue is?" "We received a vehicle identification mismatch from the station. The cashier mentioned a computer problem. We'll figure that out. License and registration, please." Mary placed the nozzle back in the pump and opened the driver's door. Mercer raised one hand. "Hold on. Tell me where the registration is first." "Glove compartment." "All right. Move slowly." Mary looked at him for a moment, not offended so much as surprised by the formality. "I was planning to." Noah Reed arrived beside them, tablet in hand. He was 28, 3 years into the department, and still carried the habit of listening fully before speaking. He nodded to Mary. "Ma'am." Mary retrieved her registration and handed it to Mercer with her license. The names matched. The plate matched. The vehicle identification number on the registration matched the number visible through the windshield. Mercer should have felt relief. Instead, the dispatch return on his tablet showed an older address linked to Marie's name, and an abbreviated record that did not include De La Cruz in the same field order. The commercial database alert from the station also showed a partial plate ending in the same 3 characters as Marie's. 3 small inconsistencies sat beside 3 much stronger confirmations. Mercer focused on the inconsistencies. "How long have you owned this vehicle?" 2 years. "Where do you live?" Mary gave him her current address in Sacramento. He looked at the screen. "This says Virginia." "We lived in Virginia before Sacramento." "We?" "My husband and I." "What does your husband do?" Mary's expression changed slightly. "Is his occupation relevant to the registration?" Mercer heard challenge where she intended precision. "I'm trying to establish why the records don't line up." "They do line up. My license and registration have the same current address. The old database doesn't." Noah leaned toward Mercer's tablet. "She's right. DMV return is current. It's the third-party record that's old." Mercer scrolled down. "There's also a surname format discrepancy." Mary kept her voice calm. "There isn't a discrepancy. There is a long surname being shortened by an old system." A truck driver at Pump 1 looked over. Another customer walked out of the store and slowed. Mary noticed the attention and lowered her voice. "Sergeant, I have an event to attend. If the official records match, could we finish this?" Mercer felt the pressure of being watched. It was subtle, but it changed the shape of the moment. He wanted certainty before he let her leave, partly because that was his job, and partly because he no longer wanted to appear as though he had arrived for nothing. "Do you have another form of identification?" Mari opened her wallet and handed him a military-dependent identification card. Mercer examined it. "This is current?" "Yes." Noah looked over his shoulder. "Expiration is next year." Mercer typed the number into the local terminal. The system did not immediately return a result, because the military database required a secondary verification channel. "It's not coming back," he said. "That does not make it invalid," Mari replied. "I didn't say it did. You implied it." The fuel pump clicked behind them, signaling that Mari's tank was full. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then Janice came outside. "Officer, I think the alert might be wrong. I looked again. The plate isn't exact." Noah turned toward her. "How far off?" "The first 4 characters are different, the last 3 match." Mercer looked at Janice, then at the tablet. "Why did you call it in as an ID mismatch?" "Because that's what the screen said." "Did she use a commercial fuel card?" "No. Regular credit card." That should have ended it. Mari could see that on Noah's face. Mercer could probably see it too. But now the scene had become tangled. An outdated address, a truncated name, a station alert that should not have applied, a military card his terminal could not verify, and several people watching him decide what came next. "Mrs. Bennett," he said, "I need you to remain here while we complete the secondary identity check." "How long will that take?" "As long as it takes." Mari's eyes held his. "That's not an answer." Noah stepped in gently. "Maybe 5 minutes. Dispatch can call the federal verification line." Mari nodded. 5 minutes I can understand." She moved toward the driver's door, intending to set her wallet inside. Mercer reacted immediately. "Please don't reach into the vehicle." Mari stopped. "I'm putting my wallet down." "Keep it with you." "Fine." She returned to where she had been standing. Mercer looked at the gathering bystanders, then at Mari, then at the unresolved screen. His judgment narrowed again. "Until we confirm everything, I'm going to place you under arrest pending verification." Noah's head turned sharply. "Sergeant, temporary processing. We can release her as soon as the identity channel clears." Mari stared at Mercer, disbelief appearing for the first time. "You have my valid driver's license, valid registration, matching VIN insurance and a second government-issued ID, and an unresolved database return. From a system the cashier has already told you is wrong." Mercer's jaw tightened. "Turn around, please." Mari could have raised her voice. She could have said Nathaniel's name. She could have demanded a supervisor, called an attorney, or reminded Mercer that the Foundation dinner waiting for her was filled with senior military officers. Instead, she looked toward Noah. "You said 5 minutes." He swallowed. "That's what dispatch estimated." Mari turned around and placed her hands behind her back. "Then use them well." Mercer stood beside the open cruiser door with the handcuff key in his hand, but the radio kept talking before he could use it. "Unit 12, be advised. Federal verification confirms Marisol de la Cruz Bennett. Current California address matches DMV record. Military-dependent credential valid. No restriction associated with vehicle." Noah looked at Mari through the open door. "Copy," he said quietly. The dispatcher continued. "Command desk requests status." Mercer pressed the radio button. "Identity confirmed. We're resolving on scene." "Copy. Command desk asks whether Mrs. Bennett is currently restrained." Mercer did not answer immediately. Noah's eyes dropped to the cuffs. Mari waited. Finally, Mercer said, "Affirmative. Removing restraints now." He unlocked the cuffs and stepped back. Mari brought her hands forward slowly. Faint pressure marks circled her wrists, nothing more. She rubbed one thumb across the other wrist and looked toward her Lexus. Her coffee was still on the roof. The sight almost made her laugh, though she did not know why. Mercer cleared his throat. "Mrs. Bennett, I apologize for the inconvenience. The records were inconsistent and—" "Sergeant." He stopped. Mari's voice was not sharp. That made Noah listen even more closely. Please don't apologize because you learned who my husband is. Mercer's face changed. That's not why. Then tell me what changed. He opened his mouth, but the answer was more complicated than he wanted it to be. The official documents had not changed. The Lexus had not changed. Mari's behavior had not changed. The station's faulty third-party alert had not suddenly become more or less reliable. What changed was that a second verification source forced everyone to look at the same facts differently. Noah spoke first. The federal return confirmed what the DMV return already showed. Mari nodded. Exactly. Mercer looked toward the people watching. We had an unresolved identification issue. You had an outdated private database and a partial license plate that did not match my car. Janice stood near the store entrance, arms folded tightly across her chest. I told them the plate wasn't exact, she said, more to herself than anyone else. Mari turned toward her. You did. The truck driver near Pump 1 lowered his phone. I heard her say it. Mercer's posture stiffened. Noah glanced at him, then back at Mari. Mrs. Bennett, the command desk is probably going to want an incident statement because the arrest entry was already created in the system. Good. Mercer seemed surprised. Good? Yes. If it happened, it should be documented correctly. We can correct the arrest status from here. Mari looked at him. Can you correct why it happened from here? No one answered. Her phone began ringing from inside her handbag on the Lexus passenger seat. She knew who it was before she saw the screen. Nathaniel. Mercer took half a step back as Mari answered. Hi. There was a pause. Nathaniel's voice came through low and controlled. Mari, are you all right? She looked around the gas station. I'm fine. I just received a security notification that your dependent record was accessed through an urgent verification request. Then my office got a call from a federal liaison asking whether you were traveling in Northern California. Mari closed her eyes briefly. That system moves faster than I expected. What happened? She told him in 4 sentences. Database alert, vehicle check, conflicting old record, arrest, verification. Nathaniel did not interrupt. When she finished, his silence lasted long enough for her to picture him standing in some Pentagon corridor with one hand on his hip, the way he did when working hard not to solve a personal problem with professional authority. Do you want me to call anyone? He asked. Mari looked at Mercer. No. Are you sure? Yes. Mercer glanced away. Nathaniel lowered his voice. They put you in handcuffs. Briefly. They're off now. Another pause. I'm going to ask again. Do you want me to call anyone? Mari understood what he was really offering. Not revenge, not pressure. A door that could open instantly because his name carried weight. She also understood why she could not walk through it. I want them to follow their own process, she said. If you make a phone call, nobody will know whether they corrected this, because the facts were clear or because of you. Nathaniel breathed out slowly. All right. That answer was one reason their marriage had lasted. But I'm staying on the phone until you tell me you're settled. Fair. Noah's radio sounded again. This time the voice belonged to Lieutenant Paula Chen, the evening watch commander. Unit 12. Chief Whitfield has been notified. She requests Mrs. Bennett be invited to the station to provide a statement. Emphasis invited, not detained. Mercer closed his eyes for the briefest moment. Mari heard Nathaniel through the phone. Was that a chief? Yes. 5 minutes ago you were stopping for coffee. The coffee is still here. That finally made him laugh once without humor. Mari reached up and took the cup from the roof of the Lexus. It had cooled enough that the paper no longer felt warm. She considered leaving. She could still make the dinner, though she would be late. Someone else could deliver the scholarship remarks. By tomorrow, this might be reduced to a strange travel story told over breakfast. But she looked at Noah, who seemed troubled by his own role. She looked at Janice, who appeared embarrassed by a policy she had followed without understanding. Then she looked at Mercer, a man who had made a poor decision and was now trying to fit it into language that made it sound inevitable. Mari had spent years teaching military families that paperwork mattered because paperwork became memory. A box checked today could affect a security review, a job application, an insurance inquiry, or a future background check. Institutions remembered what individuals forgot. She put the coffee into a trash can. "I'll go to the station," she said. Mercer nodded quickly. "We can drive you." "No, I'll drive myself." "Of course." Noah walked toward his cruiser, then stopped. "Mrs. Bennett," Mari turned. "I'm sorry I didn't question the arrest decision sooner." Mercer looked at him. Noah did not look away. Mari studied the young officer for a moment. "Then remember the feeling," she said. "Next time, use it sooner." Noah nodded. As Mari climbed into the Lexus, Nathaniel was still on the phone. "You know you're going to miss your speech," he said. She started the engine. "Maybe not." "Mari, the dinner starts in 40 minutes. She watched the patrol cars pull out ahead of her. No lights this time. "I didn't say I was going to make the dinner." "Then what speech are you talking about?" Mari followed the cruisers toward downtown Redwood Junction. "I'm not sure yet," she said, "but I think I'm about to find out." Redwood Junction Police Department occupied a low brick building between the public library and a municipal parking lot. By the time Mari arrived, the sky had turned the soft blue-gray that comes before evening in Northern California, and the first streetlights had begun to glow. She parked in the visitor section and remained behind the wheel for several seconds. Her hands were steady. That surprised her. Nathaniel was still connected through the car speakers, though neither of them had spoken during the last few blocks. "I'm here," she said. "I know. I can call you after." "You can." She smiled faintly. "That wasn't an instruction." "Neither was my answer." Mari looked through the windshield at the station doors. "Nate," his voice softened. "Yes?" "Don't let anyone in your office call this department. I've already told them not to intervene unless you ask." "Thank you. Mari, for what it's worth, I don't think you're doing this because you're stubborn. That's generous. I think you're doing it because you want the same process for yourself that you'd expect for someone whose spouse works at a grocery store." She sat quietly. "Yes," she said. "That's exactly it." Inside the station, Chief Dana Whitfield was waiting near the front desk. She was a compact woman in her early 50s, with silver beginning at her temples, and the direct posture of someone who preferred facts before conversation. Lieutenant Paula Chen stood beside her holding a folder. Mercer and Noah were farther back near the report desks. Whitfield approached Mari first. "Mrs. Bennett, I'm Chief Whitfield. Thank you for coming in voluntarily." "Marisol is fine. Mari is better." "Mari, then, I'd like to apologize for the disruption this evening. We are reviewing how the arrest decision was made." Mari noticed the wording. Not mistake. Not misunderstanding. Decision. It was a better word. "Thank you," she said. Whitfield gestured toward a small conference room. "Would you like some water? Coffee?" "Water, please. I've had enough adventures with coffee today." For the first time, tension loosened around the room. Even Noah smiled briefly. Inside the conference room, Mari placed her handbag beside her chair while Whitfield and Chen sat across from her. A wall clock ticked loudly above a bulletin board filled with community event notices. Whitfield opened the folder. "I want to be transparent. The call from Valley Fuel was entered as a vehicle identification mismatch. That code allows an officer to verify vehicle and driver information. It does not by itself direct an arrest." Mari nodded slowly. "So the computer did not tell Sergeant Mercer to arrest me?" "No. The gas station did not ask him to arrest me." "No. And my official DMV information matched the car." Whitfield glanced at Chen. "Yes." Mari leaned back. She did not feel victorious. She felt tired. "Then I think we already know the part that matters most." Whitfield folded her hands. "We know enough to begin a formal review. We don't know enough to finish one." That answer earned Mari's respect. "Fair." Chen slid a printed page across the table. There was also a synchronization delay between the station's private account service and our dispatch software. The private system generated an alert for a different vehicle. When the clerk called, dispatch summarized her concern manually. Sergeant Mercer saw only the summary until he arrived. So several imperfect pieces of information stacked on top of each other. "Exactly," Chen said. Mari looked through the glass wall toward the report desks. Mercer was typing. Noah sat 2 desks away, staring at his screen longer than seemed necessary. "And then a person made a decision about those pieces," Murray said. Whitfield nodded. "Yes. No excuses, no dramatic defense. That mattered too." Murray gave her statement from the beginning. She described entering the station store, the delayed card terminal, Janice's request for identification, the officers arriving, the registration check, the military card, and the moment the cuffs went on. She did not exaggerate Mercer's tone. She did not soften it either. When Whitfield asked whether Mercer had physically handled her roughly, Murray answered no. When asked whether he had shouted, she said not exactly. When asked whether she had felt threatened, Murray considered the question carefully. "I felt powerless for a few minutes," she said. "Those are not the same thing." Whitfield wrote that down. "What happened after federal verification?" Murray looked at the chief. Everyone became more careful. "Because of the confirmation?" "Because of the name attached to the confirmation." Whitfield stopped writing. Murray continued. "Chief, I understand why systems verify people. My husband has spent his career inside systems that verify everything twice. I'm not asking you to pretend officers should never investigate confusing information. I'm asking something simpler. Why did certainty increase before the evidence did?" The room became quiet. Chen looked down at her notes. Whitfield answered after several seconds. "That's what I intend to determine." Murray nodded. Her phone vibrated on the table. Nathaniel had sent a message rather than calling. "Are you okay?" she typed back. "Yes." Still talking. A second message appeared. "Proud of you." Murray stared at it, then locked the screen. She did not want pride to turn the evening into a heroic story. She had not done anything heroic. She had bought coffee, answered questions, and asked people to explain their decisions. Sometimes that was enough to make a room uncomfortable. The conference room door opened. Noah stood there holding his tablet. "Chief, sorry to interrupt." Whitfield looked up. "What is it?" "I finished my preliminary report, but there's something you need to see before I submit it." Mercer appeared several yards behind him, watching. Noah entered and placed the tablet on the table. "My body camera started automatically when I activated the call. It recorded the full interaction." Whitfield nodded. "That's expected." "Yes, ma'am. But I also pulled the dispatch timeline." He touched the screen. A series of timestamps appeared. 5:32:14, call received. 5:33:02, vehicle ID mismatch entered. 5:35:41, units arrive. 5:39:18, DMV match confirmed. 5:40:06, clerk reports, partial plate does not match. 5:41:22, arrest status entered. 5:46:17, federal identity confirmed. Murray read the sequence twice. The room seemed very still. Whitfield's eyes narrowed, not with anger but concentration. "The DMV match was confirmed before the arrest entry," she said. Noah nodded. "And the clerk corrected the plate before the arrest entry," Chen added. Noah nodded again. Whitfield looked through the glass wall toward Mercer. For the first time since Murray had arrived, the chief's professional calm gave way to something more serious. "Lieutenant Chen, preserve every recording from this call. Dispatch audio, body cameras, vehicle terminals, all of it. Nobody edits a report without attaching the original version." "Understood." Whitfield turned back to Murray. "I thought we were reviewing a complicated database error." Murray looked at the timestamps. "Maybe we are." Whitfield waited. Murray's gaze moved to the final line on the screen, the federal confirmation that had changed everything 5 minutes later. "But the database didn't make the last decision," she said. Outside the conference room, Mercer stopped typing. Noah remained standing beside the table, and somewhere between those 7 timestamps, what had seemed like a forgettable roadside mistake had become a question the entire department would have to answer. The first person Chief Dana Whitfield asked to leave the conference room was Sergeant Grant Mercer. He had not entered it, but he was close enough to the glass wall that everyone could see him stop when she opened the door. "Sergeant, finish nothing else tonight," Whitfield said. "Save your draft exactly as it is. Lieutenant Chen will collect your body camera file and terminal logs, then go home. You'll give a full statement tomorrow morning." Mercer's jaw moved as if he wanted to explain, but he looked through the glass and saw Mari still seated at the table. "Understood, Chief." He turned away. Noah remained beside the tablet, clearly unsure whether he should sit or stand. Whitfield closed the door and looked again at the timeline. "The DMV match came in more than 2 minutes before the arrest entry," she said. "That's the point we need to understand." Mari folded her hands around the bottle of water. The room had become quieter since Mercer left, but not easier. "I don't need you to make him a villain," she said. "I need you to tell me why correct information wasn't enough to slow the decision down." Whitfield met her gaze. "That's fair." Lieutenant Chen enlarged the terminal records. The screen showed several data fields layered on top of one another. One line carried the original mismatch alert from the gas station's private account system. Another showed the DMV registration match. A third displayed the corrected plate number. The most recent information was accurate, but the oldest warning remained highlighted in amber, because the call had not yet been formally closed. "That's bad interface design," Noah said before realizing he had spoken aloud. Chen looked at him. "Explain." "When I saw the return, I read the match first because I was looking for it. Sergeant Mercer may have been looking at the alert banner. It stays at the top even when a new return comes in." Whitfield made a note. "That may explain what he saw," she said. "It doesn't explain what he decided." Mari appreciated the distinction. She had spent years around large organizations. She knew how tempting it was to blame a screen, a form, a shift change, a misunderstood instruction. Sometimes systems really did fail. Sometimes people made reasonable decisions from incomplete information. But there was always a moment when a person decided whether to pause, ask again, or move forward. That was the moment she cared about. At 7:18 p.m., her phone vibrated with a message from the scholarship dinner coordinator. "We've moved your remarks to the end. Do you want us to wait?" Mari looked at the clock. The banquet hall was nearly 40 minutes away. She typed slowly, "Please don't hold the program. Tell the students I'm sorry." A reply came almost immediately. "They're asking if you're okay." Mari hesitated, then wrote, "I'm fine." "Tell them something important came up." She put the phone face down. Whitfield noticed. "You were headed somewhere tonight." "A scholarship dinner." Noah looked stricken. "Because of us, you missed it." "Because of what happened," Mari corrected gently. "Not everything needs a person to carry all of it." That sentence surprised even her. An hour earlier, she had wanted an exact answer to every question. Now she was beginning to understand that accountability was not the same thing as assigning all blame to one name. The department had a display problem. The gas station had a poorly understood reporting policy. Janice had entered only part of the plate before calling. Mercer had seen conflicting information and chosen speed over verification. Noah had noticed doubts and waited too long to say them loudly. Several small decisions had lined up. The handcuffs had been the final one. Whitfield closed the folder. "I don't want to keep you here all night. We have enough for your initial statement. Tomorrow we'll interview everyone separately." "Will the arrest remain on my record?" The temporary booking entry was never completed. "The arrest status exists in the call log, but we'll annotate it as voided pending administrative review." Mari's expression changed. "Pending review?" "I mean the department's review of the decision, not a review of you," Whitfield said quickly. "You are not under investigation." "Then write that plainly." Whitfield nodded. "We will." Noah looked toward the door. "Chief, should I amend my report tonight?" "No. Submit the original exactly as you wrote it. Add a supplemental statement tomorrow if needed. I want a record of what everyone remembered before we started comparing stories." Mari looked at her with new respect. That was how trust began, she thought. Not with perfect institutions, with people willing to preserve uncomfortable facts. Outside the station, the night had cooled. The municipal parking lot was almost empty, and the library next door had gone dark. Mari stood beside her Lexus and called Nathaniel. He answered on the first ring. "You're outside." She smiled. "How do you know?" The echo changed. 29 years, and that's your great intelligence skill." "One of several. His tone softened. How did it go? Mari leaned against the car. More complicated than I thought. Complicated good or complicated bad? Complicated human. She told him about the terminal display, the corrected plate, the timing, Noah's hesitation, and Whitfield's decision to preserve every original report. Nathaniel listened without interrupting. When she finished, he said, "Do you want me there tonight?" "No." "Tomorrow?" Mari looked toward the station windows. Through the glass, Whitfield and Chen were still at the conference table. "Tomorrow would be nice," she admitted. "Then I'll come as your husband." She knew what he meant. Not as a general, not as a four-star problem arriving in uniform, just Nathaniel. "Wear a sweater," she said. He laughed. "That's an order?" "Absolutely." Before she could hang up, the scholarship coordinator called. Mari answered, expecting another apology or schedule question. Instead, a young voice came through the speaker. "Mrs. Bennett, this is Lena Park. I'm one of the scholarship recipients." Mari straightened. "Lena, congratulations." "Thank you. We heard you got delayed. We just wanted you to know nobody's upset." Voices murmured behind her. "Actually," Lena continued, "they asked me to tell you we saved your seat." Mari closed her eyes for a second. A saved seat. Such a small thing. After an evening defined by questions about where she belonged, the words reached her with unexpected force. "Thank you," Mari said quietly. "That means more than you know." When the call ended, she stayed beside the car for another moment. She had missed the dinner. The speech remained unread in a blue folder on the passenger seat. The evening had gone nowhere she intended, yet as she drove away from Redwood Junction, she realized the speech she had planned about quiet service no longer felt complete. Dignity, she thought, was not only what people carried when others recognized it. Sometimes it was what they protected while everyone was still trying to decide what they saw. And tomorrow, for the first time since the handcuffs closed, Mari would have to decide what she wanted to do with that lesson. Nathaniel Bennett arrived in Redwood Junction at 8:12 the next morning, wearing a navy sweater, grey slacks, and the expression of a man who had slept less than he intended, but would never admit it. Mari was waiting in the lobby of a modest hotel near the interstate. She had chosen it because it was quiet, anonymous, and 10 minutes from the police station. When Nathaniel stepped through the sliding doors with a small overnight bag, no uniform, no aids, and no visible sign of rank, she felt her shoulders relax before she could stop them. He set the bag down. "You look tired." "Good morning to you too." "You look beautiful and tired." "Better." They hugged. No one in the lobby looked up. A family argued softly over breakfast while a television carried the morning weather. Mari was grateful for the ordinariness. Nathaniel pulled back and studied her face. "Show me your wrists." "They're fine." "Mari." She held out her hands. There were only faint pink marks left. He nodded once. "I said they're fine." "I heard you the first time." "Then why did you ask?" "Because hearing and seeing are different things." Mari almost answered sharply, then stopped. That sentence was too close to the question at the center of everything. Hearing and seeing were different things. So were seeing and understanding. They took coffee to a corner table. Nathaniel had already read the short public statement issued by Redwood Junction Police Department at 6:40 that morning. It said the department was conducting an administrative review of a vehicle identification stop in which conflicting electronic records contributed to an unnecessary custodial decision. It also stated clearly that Mari was not suspected of wrongdoing and that the detention entry had been voided. "Whitfield wrote that," Mari said. "You can tell?" "She likes nouns more than adjectives." Nathaniel smiled. "I may borrow that description." The statement had not named him. Mari noticed immediately. "That matters," she said. "What does?" "They didn't write wife of General Bennett. They wrote my name." Nathaniel took a sip of coffee. "Good." At 9:30 they returned to Valley Fuel at the request of Lieutenant Chen, who wanted to recreate the sequence of entries from Janice Harlan's register. The white canopy looked strangely ordinary in morning light. That almost made the previous evening stranger. Janice stood beside the counter with the store manager, Tom Alvarez. She looked as if she had rehearsed an apology and forgotten every word of it. "Mrs. Bennet, I'm sorry," she began. Mary held up a hand, not to silence her, but to slow her. "Before apologies, can you show us what you saw?" Janice nodded gratefully. The store used a private verification service for high-value fuel transactions and company fleet cards. When Mary's card terminal stalled, Janice had opened a side screen that automatically populated the vehicle plate from the exterior camera. The camera had read the first 3 characters incorrectly because of glare. Janice manually typed what she could see, but one character was wrong. The system returned an amber message. "Vehicle record does not align. Verify before completing exception transaction." "I thought I was supposed to call," Janice said. "The training sheet says contact local authorities if a mismatch can't be resolved." Tom Alvarez produced the sheet. Chen read it twice. "It says contact the non-emergency line for guidance," she said, "not report a suspicious vehicle." Janice looked embarrassed. "I used the word suspicious because dispatch asked what kind of call it was. I didn't know which category to pick." Mary glanced toward the window. Pump 4 sat beyond the glass. "Did anything about me concern you before the computer message?" Janice answered immediately. "No, you were polite. We joked about your navigation. I just thought the system wanted me to verify the car." Mary believed her. That answer did not erase what happened, but it changed its shape. This had not begun with a personal judgment about who Mary was. It had begun with a camera glare, a poorly written instruction, a category selected on a phone call, and a chain of people interpreting the same warning more seriously each time it moved forward. A story could become dangerous, Mary realized, even when no one intended to tell a false one. Nathaniel stayed near the coffee counter while Chen photographed the training sheet. He asked no questions until they stepped outside. "How do you feel?" he asked. Mary looked at Pump 4. "Less angry than I expected." "Were you angry?" "Eventually. Mostly I was confused. And now? Now I'm more interested." He raised an eyebrow. "That is usually expensive for somebody." She nudged him with her elbow. At 11 Chief Whitfield met them at the station. Mercer had completed his statement. Noah had submitted his original report and a supplemental memo. The body camera videos matched Mary's account. Whitfield did not play everything. She showed them the portion that mattered most. Mercer stood beside the Lexus, tablet in hand. Noah said, "DMV has a match." Mercer looked at the screen. Then dispatch repeated the gas station's mismatch classification. Mercer answered, "Understood. We'll secure her while we verify." No shouting, no dramatic confrontation, just one sentence. A decision made in less than 3 seconds. Whitfield paused the video. Mercer says he believed the mismatch call remained unresolved and that temporary custody was the safest way to stabilize the scene while identity was confirmed. Mary studied the frozen image. "Does your policy require that?" "No." "Allow it?" "In some circumstances." "Not automatically." Nathaniel finally spoke. What circumstance did he identify here? Whitfield did not flinch at the question. "That's the issue. His report says conflicting records. But the current records were not conflicting by then. The active warning on his screen made them look that way." Murray leaned forward. "So we're back to the screen." "Partly," Whitfield said, "but not completely." She slid Mercer's written statement across the table. Near the bottom, one paragraph had been highlighted. "I should have paused after the DMV match. I relied on the alert banner and the original dispatch classification more than the updated return. I believed I was being cautious. In retrospect, I moved too quickly." Mary read it twice. There was no excuse in the final sentence. No accusation against her. No attempt to claim she had caused the confusion. "Did someone tell him to write this?" she asked. Whitfield shook her head. "No." "Do I have to accept his apology?" "He hasn't formally asked to give you one." "Good." Nathaniel looked at her. Mary continued, "I don't want an apology arranged because everyone knows your rank now. I want the review finished first." Whitfield nodded slowly. "That's reasonable." As they left the station, a woman with a press badge waited near the sidewalk. She introduced herself as Camille Ortega from the Redwood County Ledger. Mrs. Bennet, may I ask one question? Mary stopped. Nathaniel kept walking 2 steps, then noticed and returned without speaking. Camille held a recorder at her side rather than pushing it forward. Do you believe the department treated you differently once officers learned who your husband was? Mary looked at Nathaniel, then at the station behind her. She thought of the cuffs opening, Mercer's voice changing, the chief's careful arrival, and every pair of eyes suddenly paying closer attention. Yes, she said. Camille waited. Mary added, but I don't think that's the most useful question anymore. What is? Mary glanced toward Nathaniel's plain sweater. Then she looked back at the reporter. Why did correct information need an important name attached to it before everyone slowed down? Camille lowered her eyes to her notebook and wrote the sentence exactly. By noon, it would become the first line of a story neither Mary nor Redwood Junction could keep small anymore. The Ledger published Camille Ortega's article at 12:17 p.m. Mary knew the exact time because her phone began vibrating during lunch. She and Nathaniel were sitting in a booth at a diner across from the county courthouse, sharing a plate of fries neither of them had ordered intentionally. Nathaniel's phone buzzed first, then Marie's, then both again. He looked at the screen. Well, what? He turned the phone toward her. The headline was restrained. Local Department reviews detention after database mismatch. Beneath it was Marie's sentence. Why did correct information need an important name attached to it before everyone slowed down? Mary exhaled. I should have said less. Nathaniel shook his head. Caillou said one thing. One thing can travel. So can a bad spreadsheet. She gave him a look. Too soon? Much too soon. The article was not hostile to the department. Camille described the gas station's plate-reading error, the ambiguous corporate instruction, the dispatch classification, the DMV confirmation, and the arrest entry that followed. She quoted Chief Whitfield saying the review would examine both technology and decision-making. She also noted that the department had publicly cleared Marie of any concern before reporters asked. That last part mattered. Marie did not want a story in which everyone became careful only because the national chain of command was watching. Whitfield had started preserving evidence before Nathaniel arrived. Noah had shown the timestamps while Marie was still just a woman sitting at a conference table with a bottle of water. People were capable of correcting themselves. That, too, deserved to be recorded. By 2 p.m., larger outlets had called the Bennett Family Readiness Foundation. The foundation's director of operations, Sophia Ramirez, phoned Marie with a tone usually reserved for budget emergencies. Tell me what you want us to say. Nothing yet. Nothing? Say I'm safe. The department is reviewing the incident, and the foundation has no additional comment. Marie, 3 national producers have called. One wants you tonight. No. Another says they can send a car. Definitely no. Sophia paused. You sound calm. I'm eating pie. Nathaniel looked down at the table. You are not eating pie. I'm considering pie. Sophia laughed despite herself. The call ended, but Marie's appetite did not return. Public attention changed the situation. She knew that. It simplified complicated events into short moral shapes. Right person, wrong person, hero, fool, victim, villain. Yet the more Marie learned, the less simple the gas station seemed. Janice had followed a badly written instruction. Dispatch had chosen a category from limited options. The software had kept an outdated alert visually dominant. Mercer had made a poor decision under conflicting signals. Noah had noticed the problem, but lacked confidence to challenge a senior officer quickly. None of those facts cancelled the others. Marie wanted room for all of them. That afternoon, Whitfield invited Marie and Nathaniel to observe the department's internal systems review. It was unusual, but the chief said she wanted Marie to understand what would change, not merely be told later that something had changed. In a training room, an IT supervisor projected the mobile terminal interface onto a wall. The flaw became obvious once everyone was looking for it. When a call began with a warning classification, an amber banner remained at the top, until a dispatcher manually changed the call status. New database returns appeared below it in smaller white boxes. An officer moving quickly could read the warning first and treat the updated information as secondary. "Why doesn't a verified DMV match clear the banner?" Nathaniel asked. "Different systems," the supervisor said. "They don't talk to each other that way." Mari leaned forward. "Can they?" "With development work, yes." Whitfield looked at him. "Then start the request." The supervisor blinked. "Chief, County IT will want a project justification." "You have one." Noah sat in the back row. He had been asked to describe what he saw on his tablet during the stop. His voice was steady until Whitfield asked why he did not push harder after the registration match. He looked down. "Because Sergeant Mercer had more experience. I thought maybe he understood something I didn't." "Did you believe the arrest was necessary?" Noah took a long breath. "I wasn't sure." "And what did you do with that uncertainty?" "Not enough." The answer made the room uncomfortable. Mari watched him. He was young enough to be one of the scholarship applicants she worked with every year, but old enough to carry responsibility for his silence. Whitfield did not humiliate him. "Then that's a training issue too," she said. "Not whether junior officers can overrule senior ones, whether they know how to clearly state new facts when a decision is moving too fast." She wrote on the whiteboard, "Pause, confirm, state the contradiction," 3 short instructions. Mari copied them into the margin of her notebook. Later in the parking lot, Noah approached her. "Mrs. Bennett?" "Mari. Mari. I keep replaying that moment." "Don't replay it forever. Learn it once properly." He nodded. "I thought being respectful meant not challenging him in front of you." "Respect can be quiet," Mari said, "but it cannot be invisible when facts matter." Noah absorbed that. "Would you mind if I wrote that down?" Mari smiled. "Only if you spell my name correctly." For the first time since the incident, she heard herself laugh without effort. That evening, the scholarship students gathered again, informally, at the Foundation's temporary event space. The official dinner was over, but several recipients were still in town. Sophia had arranged sandwiches, coffee, and folding chairs. No podium, no cameras. Mari arrived with Nathaniel and the blue folder she had carried all along. Lena Park hugged her at the door. "We really did save your seat." Mari looked across the room. At the front table, between 2 students, an empty chair had a handwritten card taped to the back. Mari. No title, no Mrs. General, no foundation role, just Mari. She sat in it. When the room quieted, Sophia asked if she wanted to give the speech she had missed. Mari opened the blue folder. The original remarks began with a sentence she had loved 24 hours earlier. "Service is often measured by the things we surrender without complaint." She read it silently, then closed the folder. "I wrote something for you yesterday," she said. "But yesterday I thought resilience meant moving through difficulty without losing your composure. I still believe that. I just don't think it's complete." The students watched her. Nathaniel stood near the back wall. Mari continued. "Sometimes resilience means asking a question twice when the first answer doesn't make sense. Sometimes it means admitting you moved too quickly. Sometimes it means speaking up, even when the person beside you has more experience. And sometimes it means leaving a seat open for someone who had a very strange evening." The room laughed softly. Mari looked at Lena. "What matters is not that we never make mistakes. What matters is whether our systems, our families, our teams, and our own pride leave us enough room to correct them." No applause came immediately. For a few seconds, the room simply held the words. Then one student began clapping, and the others followed. Mari did not feel triumphant. She felt lighter. Her story was becoming public, but that did not mean she had to let public attention decide what the story meant. She could still choose that. And for the first time, she understood that her next decision would be harder than anything she had done at the gas station. She would have to decide whether to step away now that her name was clear, or stay involved long enough to help make sure the next person never needed an important name at all. Mari made her decision at 6:03 the next morning while brushing her teeth. Nathaniel was sitting on the edge of the hotel bed reading emails when she walked out of the bathroom and said, "I'm staying another 2 days." He looked up. "Good morning." Good morning. I'm staying another 2 days. I heard you. I was giving the declaration the ceremony it deserved. Mari crossed her arms. You're making fun of me. A little. I thought you had a pentagon. It will still be there Thursday. She paused. You're staying too. If you want me to. Mari considered it. Yes, but no uniform. The sweater survives another day. At 9, Chief Whitfield convened a voluntary review session with representatives from Dispatch, Patrol, County IT, the gas station, and the city's risk management office. Mari had been invited as the person most affected by the chain of decisions. She almost declined when she saw the conference table. There were name placards. Hers read Marisol Bennett, community participant. She liked that more than she expected. Janice sat across from her. Noah sat beside Lieutenant Chen. Mercer was not present. Whitfield explained that his personnel interview was separate from the systems review. Today is not about assigning discipline, the chief said. It's about rebuilding the sequence and identifying where a reasonable person could have stopped it. A dispatch supervisor named Caleb Morris began with the incoming call. Janice had said, "The computer is giving me a vehicle mismatch and I don't know what I'm supposed to do." The dispatcher asked whether she wanted an officer. Janice answered, "I think so. The sheet says call local authorities." Caleb paused the recording. That should have been entered as assistance requested, not suspicious vehicle. Why wasn't it? Whitfield asked. Our software doesn't have an assistance category for private verification systems. The nearest choices are suspicious vehicle, disabled vehicle, fraud concern, or general service. Mari looked at the list. General service sounds less alarming. Caleb nodded. It does. The dispatcher chose the category she thought would get the right officer there with enough information. So each person added a little certainty to something that began as uncertainty, Mari said. The room went quiet. Caleb leaned back. That's a good way to put it. The phrase stayed on the whiteboard for the rest of the meeting. Uncertainty became certainty as it moved. County IT proposed 3 changes. The amber banner would no longer remain visually dominant after a verified database return. Conflicting information would trigger a large prompt requiring officers to acknowledge both records before changing a person's status. And dispatchers would receive a new call category called Verification Assistance. Whitfield added a 4th. No custodial status for an administrative identity mismatch after a verified ownership return without supervisor consultation, unless there is an immediate safety reason. Nathaniel, seated against the wall as an observer, did not speak. Mari was glad. This was not his meeting. Near the end, Tom Alvarez from Valley Fuel raised his hand. We're rewriting our training sheet, he said. But I want to ask Mrs. Bennett something. Mari nodded. Would you review the wording? Not legally. Just as someone who went through it. Mari almost said no. She was not a compliance consultant. She did not want every institution involved handing her homework because they felt guilty. Then Janice spoke. I'd appreciate it too. I read that sheet 3 times after you left. I still think I followed what it sounded like, even though now I know that wasn't what it meant. Mari looked at her. Send me 1 page, she said, not a manual. Tom smiled. 1 page. After the meeting, Whitfield asked Mari to stay behind. Mercer has requested a mediated conversation with you. Mari's expression tightened. Why? He says he wants to apologize directly and answer questions if you have them. You are under no obligation to agree. Mari looked through the conference room window toward the parking lot. Has the review finished? Not formally. We have enough facts to know his arrest decision did not meet our standard after the verified match. What remains is administrative, training, supervision, and whether there were similar judgment issues in his prior reviews. Mari did not like the word discipline hovering invisibly over the conversation. I don't want to decide what happens to his job. You won't. And I don't want him apologizing because he thinks my husband can affect it. Whitfield gave a small nod. I told him the same thing. Mari sighed. All right, 10 minutes. With you there. The meeting took place that afternoon in the same room where Mary had given her statement. Mercer entered without a uniform. He wore a grey button-down shirt and looked smaller somehow, not physically but socially, stripped of the context in which Mary had first known him. He sat across from her. Whitfield remained near the end of the table. Mercer began without rehearsed language. "Mrs. Bennett, I made the wrong call." Mary waited. "I saw the alert, heard the dispatch classification, and decided the safest thing was to secure you until everything matched. When the DMV return came back, I should have reset my thinking. I didn't. I treated the new information like something to explain away instead of something that should change my decision." That was more precise than Mary expected. "Why?" she asked. Mercer looked down at his hands. "Because I had already decided what the situation was." No dramatic excuse followed. Mary felt the answer settle in the room. "And when dispatch said who my husband was?" Mercer looked at her again. "I became afraid I'd made a mistake that would matter more because of who he is." "Did that change how you treated me?" "Yes." The honesty hurt more than a defense would have. Mary leaned back. "That's the part I keep thinking about." "I know." "No," she said gently. "You know now. I need you to understand it later, too. When the next person's name doesn't make your radio go quiet." Mercer nodded. "I will." Mary studied him. "Don't promise me that. Build a habit that makes the promise unnecessary." Whitfield looked down, perhaps to hide the faintest smile. Mercer swallowed. "That's fair." He apologized again briefly, then left. Mary remained seated. She had expected satisfaction. Instead, she felt something closer to release. Not forgiveness, exactly. Not yet. But the story no longer needed Mercer to remain frozen forever beside Pump 4, handcuffs in his hand. If he could change, then the evening could become more than a permanent accusation. Whitfield broke the silence. "The city manager wants to hold a public briefing tomorrow. They'll release preliminary findings and the procedural changes." Mary looked at her. "Do they want me there?" "They asked." "Do they want Nathaniel there?" Whitfield hesitated. "They think his presence would reassure people that the matter has been handled seriously." Mary almost laughed. There it was again. The important name. She stood and picked up her bag. "Tell them I'll come." Whitfield nodded. Mary reached the door, then turned. "But my husband sits in the audience." "Understood. And no one introduces me as the general's wife." Whitfield's expression softened. "How should we introduce you?" Mary thought of the placard from that morning. "Marisol Bennett," she said. Community participant. It was the simplest title she had ever chosen, and somehow after 2 days of people attaching meaning to her name, it felt like the strongest one. By 10 o'clock the next morning, the Redwood Junction Municipal Chamber was fuller than it had been for any budget hearing in years. Local reporters occupied the first 2 rows. City employees stood along the side wall. Several residents had come simply because the story had traveled farther than anyone expected. A camera crew from Sacramento adjusted lights near the back without blocking the aisle. Murray waited in a small room behind the chamber with Chief Whitfield and City Manager Harold Kim. Nathaniel was already seated in the audience. He had chosen the 3rd row, navy sweater again. Murray had teased him over breakfast. "People are going to think you own one shirt." It has become symbolic. Of what? Civilian restraint. She had laughed hard enough to spill coffee onto a napkin. Now, minutes before the briefing, Mary appreciated that he was visible but not central. Harold Kim reviewed the order of speakers. "I'll open. Chief Whitfield will present the preliminary findings and procedural changes. Then Mary, if you're comfortable, you'll have 5 minutes. After that, we'll take questions." 5 minutes is dangerous," Mary said. Kim looked worried until Whitfield smiled. "She's joking." "Mostly," Mary said. The briefing began precisely at 10:05. Kim spoke first, acknowledging the disruption caused by the stop and emphasizing that the city's review was designed to improve decision-making rather than protect appearances. Then Whitfield stepped to the podium. Her presentation was specific. The gas station's camera misread one plate character. A private training sheet used ambiguous language. Dispatch selected a call category that made an uncertain verification request sound more serious than it was. The police terminal kept the original Amber Alert above the later DMV confirmation. Sergeant Mercer received accurate ownership information before entering an arrest status, but failed to adequately reassess the situation. Officer Reed recognized conflicting information, but did not communicate his concern clearly enough to interrupt the decision. No single fact explained the outcome. Together, they did. Whitfield announced immediate changes. Dispatch would add a verification assistance category. Mobile terminals would be redesigned so confirmed records replaced stale alert banners. Officers would be required to pause and consult a supervisor before custodial action in administrative identity mismatches once ownership had been verified, unless an immediate safety issue existed. Training would also include a new protocol for junior officers to state contradictions directly and respectfully. Mercer would complete remedial decision-making training and temporarily work in a non-field assignment while the administrative review concluded. Noah would participate in scenario training focused on assertive communication. Mari listened carefully. There was no public humiliation, no theatrical punishment, only names, decisions, and changes. It felt more serious that way. Then Kim introduced her. Marisol Bennett, community participant in the review. Nothing else. Mari walked to the podium. She had prepared notes. She did not use them. 2 mornings ago, she began, I thought I was stopping for coffee. A small ripple of laughter moved through the room. I had a speech in my car for 12 scholarship students. I was late to that event because a computer read one character incorrectly, a policy was misunderstood, a call was categorized too strongly, and several people made decisions faster than the information deserved. She looked toward Janice, who sat near the aisle. What happened to me was not the result of one dramatic act. That is precisely why I think it matters. The room became still. We often imagine mistakes as obvious things. Someone ignores a giant warning. Someone knowingly chooses the wrong path. Most real mistakes are quieter. A box is checked. A phrase is unclear. An old alert remains on a screen. A junior person assumes a senior person knows more. A decision gains momentum. Mari glanced at Noah. Then everyone reaches the end and wonders how they got there. She paused. I am grateful this department did not spend its energy pretending the evening was simpler than it was. Chief Whitfield preserved the original records. Officer Reed brought forward the timeline. Sergeant Mercer acknowledged that he should have reassessed his decision. The gas station is changing its instructions. The city is changing its technology. She looked down at the podium, then back up. That does not erase what happened. It gives what happened a use. Nathaniel sat perfectly still in the 3rd row. Mari continued. There is one part I have not been able to forget. 5 minutes after I was placed in handcuffs, dispatch connected my name to my husband. The same documents suddenly seemed easier to trust. The same questions were asked more carefully. The same people slowed down. A reporter lifted her pen. My husband did nothing wrong by having the career he has, and the officers did nothing wrong by paying attention to federal verification. But I do not want careful treatment to depend on whether a person's family name creates urgency. Correct information should create urgency by itself. She stepped back from the podium. That's all I wanted to say. The questions began. Most were procedural. One reporter asked whether she planned legal action. Mari said she had made no such decision and was focused on the review. Another asked whether she accepted Mercer's apology. She answered that apologies were private and change was public. Then Camille Ortega raised her hand. Mari recognized her immediately. Mari, if your husband had not been a 4-star general, do you believe the outcome would have been the same? The chamber went silent. It was the question everyone had been waiting for. Mari looked toward Nathaniel. He did not move. She looked at Whitfield, Noah, Janice, and the residents filling the room. Then she answered, I don't know. Several reporters shifted, perhaps expecting something sharper. Mari continued, And 2 days ago that uncertainty would have made me angry. Today I think it gives us a responsibility. We cannot prove what would have happened in a different life with a different name, but we can build a process where the answer matters less. Camille nodded slowly. Mari added, "The goal is not to make sure the next person has an important connection. The goal is to make sure the next person doesn't need one." For several seconds, no one spoke. Then Kim ended the briefing. Outside the chamber, cameras gathered around Nathaniel. He smiled politely and said only, "My wife spoke for herself." Then he joined Mari near the building steps. 5 minutes, he said. "Was I under?" "Not remotely." She smiled. Across the plaza, Noah and Lieutenant Chen were speaking with the county IT supervisor. Janice stood with Tom Alvarez, holding a newly printed one-page training sheet. Chief Whitfield was answering a resident's question without looking at the cameras. The machinery of ordinary correction was already moving. Mari expected to feel finished. Instead, her phone rang. Sofia Ramirez was calling from the foundation. "Mari," she said when Mari answered, "you need to see your email." "Why?" The State Public Safety Training Board watched the briefing. "They want you to join a civilian advisory session next month." Mari closed her eyes. Nathaniel watched her expression. "What happened?" She lowered the phone. "Apparently my coffee stop has developed a second career." He smiled. But Mari looked back at the municipal building and understood something important. The first part of this story had happened to her. What came next would depend on what she chose to do with it. The email arrived on Monday morning, while Mari was standing in the foundation kitchen, trying to decide whether a carton of milk had survived the weekend. She had returned home the night before with Nathaniel, 2 half-unpacked bags, the blue scholarship folder, and the strange feeling that Redwood Junction had followed her into the quiet rooms of their house. Nothing there had changed. The clock above the stove was still 3 minutes fast. A basket of unopened mail still leaned against the fruit bowl. Nathaniel's reading glasses were exactly where he always forgot them. Yet Mari had spent most of breakfast looking at ordinary things as if they required interpretation. At 8:17, her phone chimed. The subject line read, "Civilian Advisory Session, California Public Safety Training Board." Mari opened it, read the first paragraph, then locked the screen. Sofia Ramirez walked into the kitchen carrying a stack of donor packets. "That face means either a budget problem or someone wants you on a panel," Sofia said. "Panel. Worse." Mari laughed despite herself. Sofia set down the packets. "What kind?" "The State Training Board watched the Redwood Junction briefing. They want me in Sacramento next month for a civilian advisory session on identity verification and roadside decision-making." Sofia waited for the part Mari was not saying. "I don't want to become the woman from the gas station," Mari admitted. "Then don't." Mari looked at her. "You were Marisol Bennett before that stop," Sofia said. "You run this foundation. You know military families in 6 counties by name. You have argued with school districts, landlords, moving companies, and insurance offices without ever needing a television camera. One bad evening doesn't get to rename you." Mari opened the refrigerator again, though she had forgotten why. "That's not the problem." "What is?" "I know why they're asking." Sofia leaned against the counter. "Of course you do. The question is whether you have something useful to say." That stayed with Mari through the morning. At lunch, Lena Park stopped by the office to return a borrowed projector. She was one of the 12 scholarship recipients Mari had missed speaking to in Redwood Junction, a thoughtful 19-year-old who asked questions as if she intended to remember the answers for years. "Mrs. Bennett, can I ask you something?" Mari pointed at the chair opposite her desk. "You usually do." Lena smiled. "Are you going to keep doing the police review stuff? Apparently the whole state has opinions about that." "I mean you." Mari studied her. Lena adjusted the strap of her backpack. "At the dinner, you told us that a detour doesn't get to decide where you're going. Then you missed the dinner because of the biggest detour ever. It would be kind of unfair if you stopped believing your own speech." Mari stared at her for 2 seconds. "You know," she said, "scholarship money can still be revoked for excessive wisdom." Lena grinned. "I checked the rules. It can't." That evening, Mary found Nathaniel on the back patio, trimming a rosemary plant with the concentration he normally reserved for briefing papers. She handed him the printed invitation. He read it once. "Do you want to go?" "I was hoping you would tell me." "Absolutely not." Mary sat beside him. "Very supportive." Nathaniel put the scissors down. "You don't owe the state a second career because somebody made a bad decision near a gas pump. You also don't owe yourself a quiet life just because you're afraid people will connect your name to that evening." She looked toward the line of trees beyond the yard. "I spent years being introduced as your wife at military events," she said. "I never minded it. I was proud of you, but I worked hard to build something that was mine too. I don't want to walk into a room and have the first sentence be, 'This is the general's wife who was detained.'" Nathaniel nodded. "Then tell them how to introduce you." The simplicity of the answer annoyed her because it was correct. The next morning, Mary replied to the invitation. She accepted on one condition. Her identification line would read, "Marisol Bennett, Executive Director, Bennett Family Readiness Foundation, Community Participant, Redwood Junction Systems Review." No reference to Nathaniel's rank. The board agreed quickly. 4 weeks later, Mary entered a state training center in Sacramento, carrying the blue folder. The advisory room was plain, beige walls, rolling chairs, and a tired coffee dispenser. Around the table sat patrol instructors, dispatch supervisors, technology specialists, municipal attorneys, and 3 other civilian participants whose experiences involved confusing records rather than dangerous encounters. The session leader, Dr. Helen Ward, explained that the board was designing a training module for situations in which electronic information conflicted with documents presented in person. "The challenge," Ward said, "is creating a pause without creating paralysis." Mary liked that sentence. For the first hour, the group reviewed a draft scenario. An officer stopped a driver after a database mismatch. The driver immediately became loud, refused to answer basic questions, and repeatedly interrupted the officer. The training objective was to teach calm communication while verification continued. Mary read the scenario twice. "May I ask something?" Ward nodded. "Why did you make the driver difficult?" One instructor answered. "To create realistic stress." "Realistic for whom?" The room quieted. Mary tapped the page. "If the lesson is that officers should slow down only when the person in front of them behaves perfectly, that's not much of a lesson. But if you make the civilian obviously unreasonable, everyone in the room gets to explain the outcome by personality." Ward leaned forward. "What would you change?" "Make the driver ordinary, a little tired, maybe confused, maybe late somewhere. Let the documents disagree with the screen. Then see whether the officer can tolerate uncertainty without turning it into a conclusion." A technology specialist named Aaron Patel wrote something in the margin. Mary continued. "And don't train only the officer, train the screen." In Redwood Junction, the corrected DMV return appeared underneath an old alert banner. The most accurate information was visually quieter than the least accurate information. That's backwards. Aaron looked up. "We've been discussing exactly that problem. Then make the correction impossible to miss." By mid-afternoon, the scenario had changed. So had the draft interface. Confirmed information moved to the top of the display. Conflicting data appeared in a separate box that required acknowledgement before a custodial decision could be entered. A junior officer in the exercise also received a specific phrase to use when new information contradicted a senior officer's assumption. "Supervisor, I have verified information that changes our working assessment." Mary read it aloud. "That's a very formal sentence." The instructors laughed. "Good," Ward said. "Make it better." Mary thought of Noah Reed standing beside the conference table, wishing he had spoken sooner. "How about, pause, we have a verified match. We need to reassess." Aaron typed it into the training notes. At the end of the session, Ward walked Mary toward the exit. "We're running a 3-county pilot in 6 weeks," she said. "Would you consider staying on as a civilian design advisor?" Mary looked through the glass doors at the late afternoon traffic moving along the boulevard. A month earlier, the idea would have felt like the incident taking more from her. Now it felt different. She thought of Sophia saying one bad evening did not get to rename her, and of Lena reminding her that a detour did not choose the destination. Today, one question had changed a training scenario. "Yes," Mari said. Ward smiled. "You're sure?" Mari adjusted the blue folder under her arm. "No," she said, "but I've learned that uncertainty isn't always a reason to stop. Sometimes it's a reason to pay closer attention." 6 weeks later, Sergeant Grant Mercer sat in a training room with no badge on his chest and no patrol radio on his shoulder. He was still an officer. His temporary administrative assignment had not changed that. But for the first time in years, his workday began with a notebook, a projector, and an instructor who did not care how many difficult calls he had handled before Redwood Junction. On the screen was a frozen image from his own body camera. Mari stood beside the Lexus with her hands visible. Noah was near the rear quarter panel. Mercer's tablet showed the verified DMV return beneath the older mismatch banner. The instructor, Captain Renee Foster from a neighboring county, did not ask Mercer what he had intended. She asked what he had known. "At this exact moment," Foster said, "what information did you have?" Mercer looked at the screen. Registration matched. License matched. The store clerk had corrected the plate. And what information were you still giving the most weight? The original alert. Why? Mercer rubbed the edge of his notebook with one thumb. For several sessions, he had answered that question with operational language. Conflicting information, time pressure, incomplete context. Each phrase was technically true and emotionally useless. This time he said something simpler, "Because I thought I had already figured out what was happening." Foster waited. Mercer continued, "After that, I read every new fact as something I needed to fit into the first explanation. I wasn't updating the explanation, I was defending it." No one in the room reacted dramatically. There were no cameras, no reporters. Only 6 officers attending decision-making training, and a whiteboard covered with arrows. Foster wrote one phrase on the board. "Decision momentum." "That's the lesson," she said. "Not that you should never form an assessment. You have to. The lesson is that an assessment must remain temporary when the facts are still moving." Across town, Noah Reed was learning the other half of the same lesson. His training group had been assigned a scenario in which a senior officer misunderstood an electronic return. Noah's task was not to solve the entire situation. He had to interrupt respectfully and clearly. The first time he said, "Sir, I think maybe we should look at this again." The evaluator shook her head. "Too soft." "What is the verified fact?" Noah tried again. "The registration is confirmed." "And what do you need?" "A reassessment." "Then say that." On the third attempt, Noah stopped looking at the imaginary senior officer for permission. "Pause. We have a verified match. We need to reassess before we continue." The evaluator nodded. Noah wrote the sentence down even though it was already printed in the pilot materials. In Sacramento, Mari was sitting beside Aaron Patel as the state board tested a redesigned mobile terminal display. She had expected her advisory role to involve occasional comments from the edge of the room. Instead, someone had given her a name badge, a permanent chair, and access to a shared folder containing 14 versions of the same screen. "You created a monster," Aaron told her. "I asked one question." "That's how most monsters begin." Mari smiled and studied the latest version. The old design had kept unresolved warnings pinned to the top of the screen in red, while newer verified information appeared lower in neutral text. The pilot reversed the visual priority. A confirmed registration now moved to the top with a timestamp and a clear label, "Verified current record." Older conflicting data remained visible, but it was separated as historical or unresolved information. "Better," Mari said. Aaron looked offended. "Only better?" "Much better, but you're still making the user hunt for the time." He leaned closer. She pointed. "If 2 records disagree, the first question is, which one is newest? Put the timestamp where the eye lands." Aaron moved it. "There. Now it's good." At lunch, Dr. Helen Ward handed Mari an envelope. "This came through Chief Whitfield. She asked me to give it to you privately." Mari recognized the handwriting on the front before opening it. Marisol Bennett. Inside was a single page from Mercer. He did not describe the evening as a misunderstanding. He did not mention Nathaniel. He did not ask Mari to agree that the situation had been confusing. He wrote that the verified information had arrived before his decision and that he had failed to let it change his thinking. He wrote that Noah had tried to raise the contradiction and that he should have listened. He apologized for making Mari carry the consequence of his certainty. The last sentence was the shortest. "I am working to make sure I do not repeat that decision with someone else." Mari folded the letter and returned it to the envelope. Ward did not ask what it said. "Do I have to answer?" Mari asked. "No." "Good." She placed the envelope inside the blue folder. For 2 days, she left it there. Then, late Wednesday afternoon, she sat at her desk after everyone else had gone home and wrote 3 lines on foundation stationery. "Sergeant Mercer, thank you for taking responsibility without asking me to make the evening smaller than it was. I hope the most meaningful part of your apology is the next decision you make differently. Marisol Bennett." She sealed the note before she could revise it into something safer. The next morning, Lena Park arrived for a scholarship mentoring appointment with 3 college applications and the expression of someone expecting disaster from every blank text box. "I don't know what to write for the leadership question," Lena said. "What does it ask?" "Describe a time you made a mistake and what you learned." Mari laughed. Lena frowned. "Why is that funny?" "Because people always want leadership stories to begin with success. Sometimes the better question is whether you changed when the first answer was wrong." Lena looked down at the application. "So I should write about messing up the volunteer schedule." "Did you learn something?" "I learned never to use 3 spreadsheets when one will do." "That's practically state policy now." Lena laughed and the tension left her shoulders. That afternoon, the Public Safety Board approved the 3-county pilot. Redwood County would participate, along with 2 neighboring jurisdictions. Dispatchers, field supervisors, and front counter personnel would all receive the same core lesson. Verified information had to interrupt decision momentum. Mari read the announcement twice. There was no mention of her husband. There was only a short acknowledgement of the civilian advisors who had helped design the module. Her name appeared between a county librarian and a retired school administrator. She liked that more than she expected. Nathaniel called while she was still looking at it. "How's your accidental second career?" "Apparently I'm now professionally annoying software designers." "You always had the qualifications," she smiled. Then she looked at the pilot schedule attached to the email. 3 counties, 6 weeks. Hundreds of small decisions that would never make the news if everything worked correctly. For the first time, Mari understood that invisibility could be a measure of success. If the new process worked, there would be no dramatic moment, no public correction, no famous name over a radio. Someone would simply pause, read the newest information, and make a better decision before anyone had a story to tell. The first proof that the new process worked arrived without a camera, a press release, or anyone important watching. It happened on a rainy Thursday evening 2 months after the pilot began. A middle school teacher named Daniel Holloway was driving home in a rental sedan while his own car was being repaired. The rental company's electronic record had been updated that afternoon, but one county database still displayed the previous renter's information. When an automated verification request returned conflicting data, Officer Noah Reed was sent to clarify it. A year earlier, the situation might have felt routine to Noah. Now every detail seemed louder. The driver was tired. His briefcase was on the passenger seat. A grocery bag rested on the floor behind him. He had the rental agreement on his phone, but the battery was at 4% and the screen kept dimming while he searched for it. Noah stood near the driver's window and listened. "I picked it up yesterday," Daniel said. "I can show you the email. Just give me a second." The county terminal displayed an unresolved mismatch banner. Below it, a newer return showed the vehicle identification number matched the rental company. Noah's partner, a recent academy graduate named Tessa Monroe, leaned toward the screen. "The old renter is still attached to the plate," she said. Noah heard his own voice from months earlier in his memory. "I think maybe we should look at this again." This time he did not soften the important part. "Pause. We have a verified vehicle match. Let's reassess before we do anything else. Tessa nodded. They called the rental company, confirmed Daniel's agreement, documented the outdated record, and ended the contact with an apology for the delay. Daniel drove away 11 minutes after Noah arrived. The entire event was summarized the next morning in a routine pilot report. Chief Whitfield forwarded the anonymized report to Mari with one sentence in the email. This is what success looks like when nobody has to notice it. Mari read the report at her kitchen table before sunrise. Nathaniel was making coffee behind her. "Good news?" he asked. She turned the laptop toward him. He read silently. "No handcuffs," he said. "No confusion turned into certainty. No supervisor rushing in. No federal verification. No general." Mari looked at him. "Especially no general." Nathaniel set a mug beside her. For weeks, Mari had been telling herself that the advisory work mattered because the system was changing. The sentence had always sounded reasonable. The report made it real. Somewhere in Redwood County, a teacher had arrived home late enough to be annoyed and early enough to forget about it by the weekend. That was the outcome she had wanted from the beginning. At Valley Fuel, smaller changes were producing their own quiet results. Tom Alvarez had replaced the old training sheet with a one-page decision guide developed with the company's regional office. Clerks were instructed to verify obvious data entry errors before contacting dispatch, and to describe technical mismatches precisely rather than selecting broad categories they did not understand. Janice Harlan had become the person training new employees on the process. She sent Mari a photograph of the sheet taped beside the register. Under the photo, she wrote, "I make everyone read the whole thing now," twice. Mari replied with a coffee cup emoji and nothing else. Their relationship did not need to become a friendship for the lesson to matter. That spring, the Bennett Family Readiness Foundation entered its busiest season. Transfer orders sent families across the country. Scholarship decisions were finalized. Sophia's office disappeared beneath folders. Lena Park began volunteering twice a week before leaving for college in the fall. Mari welcomed the ordinary pressure. For several months, every introduction had seemed to carry a hidden second sentence. "This is Marisol Bennett. You may have seen the video." Now most days passed without anyone mentioning Redwood Junction at all. One afternoon, Mari was reviewing scholarship essays when Sophia dropped a printed email onto her desk. "Your other employer is calling." Mari looked at the letterhead. The State Training Board was inviting her to speak at its annual Public Safety Summit in Sacramento. The invitation described her as a community design advisor for the verification pilot. Mari read the phrase twice. "Not incident participant," she said. "No." "Not general's wife." "Also no." Sophia sat down. "You look disappointed." "I'm deciding whether I'm relieved." "Take your time. 3 seconds should do it." Mari smiled. That night she and Nathaniel ate dinner on the patio. The rosemary plant had survived his aggressive trimming and was now larger than before. Mari told him about the summit. "Do you want to speak?" he asked. "I think so." That sounded almost confident. "Don't ruin it." They ate in silence for a moment. Then Nathaniel said, "I got the leave dates approved." Mari looked up. "For what?" "Cebu?" She had almost forgotten the conversation. Months earlier, before Redwood Junction, they had discussed visiting the Philippines after scholarship season. Mari still had cousins in Cebu City, and an aunt who complained on every video call that Americans had forgotten how long a proper visit should last. "You actually booked it?" "Not yet. I know better than to make travel decisions without the executive director's approval." Mari leaned back and looked at the evening sky. She had not been to Cebu in 8 years. Each time they planned the trip, work expanded to fill the calendar. A grant deadline appeared. Nathaniel's schedule changed. A family needed help. Another year passed. "After the summit," she said. "That's a yes?" "That's a yes." Something in the decision felt connected to the rest of the year, though Mari could not have explained why. The advisory work had begun because she wanted an unpleasant evening to have some use. The trip was different. It had no public purpose. It would solve no system, improve no procedure, and teach nobody a lesson. It was simply something she wanted. Mari had spent much of her adult life becoming useful. Useful to military families, useful to scholarship students, useful to committees, volunteers, and now training boards. She was proud of that life. But usefulness was not the same as living. Nathaniel reached across the table and took her hand. "You disappeared for a second," he said. "I was thinking about mangoes." "That's serious." "Very." He smiled. A week later, Mari accepted the summit invitation. When the organizers asked for a biography, she sent 4 sentences about the foundation, the systems review, and the verification pilot. She ended with a line Sophia suggested as a joke, and Mari kept because it was true. Marisol Bennett believes good systems should help ordinary people make better decisions on ordinary days. The program coordinator replied that it was perfect. Mari printed the final agenda and placed it in the blue folder beside Mercer's letter and the original scholarship speech she had still never delivered from a formal stage. 3 pieces of paper from 3 different versions of the same year. 1 represented what had happened to her. 1 represented what someone else had learned, and 1, still waiting, represented where she had been going before any of it happened. For the first time, Mari did not feel the need to choose between them. On the morning of the state summit, Mari woke before her alarm and decided to drive to Redwood Junction for coffee. Nathaniel opened one eye when she told him, "That's 40 minutes in the wrong direction." "I know. And the summit is in Sacramento." "I also know that." He studied her from the pillow. "Do I need to come?" Mari shook her head. "No, I think that's the point." The highway was nearly empty when she left. Dawn spread pale light across the fields, and low fog rested between rows of trees. The Lexus felt familiar again, not like an object from a video or a photograph in a training room. Her blue folder lay on the passenger seat beside a travel mug. Valley Fuel appeared ahead just after 7. Mari's hands tightened on the steering wheel for 1 second. Then they relaxed. The white canopy looked smaller than she remembered. She parked near the same pump, walked inside, and heard the door chime. Janice Harlan was behind the counter. For a moment, neither woman spoke. Then Janice lifted a paper cup. "Medium coffee?" Mari smiled. "You remember. Some customer orders stay with you." The answer could have become awkward. Janice did not let it. She filled the cup, placed a lid beside it, and rang up the purchase normally. No apology, no rehearsed explanation, just coffee. Mari noticed the new 1-page verification guide beside the register. The top line read, "Verify the information before you classify the problem." "Tom's wording?" Mari asked. "Mine," Janice said. "It's good." Janice looked pleased. "I made it shorter 3 times. "Then it's excellent." Mari paid and turned toward the door. "Mrs. Bennett." She looked back. Janice hesitated. "Good luck today." Mari nodded. "Thank you." Outside, she stood for a moment near the pump where the entire story had started. She expected some dramatic feeling to arrive. Victory, anger, closure, something large enough to match the months that followed. Instead, she noticed a delivery truck blocking half the driveway and a sparrow hopping beneath a trash can. The place had become ordinary again. That was enough. 2 hours later, Mari stood backstage at the Sacramento Civic Convention Center while technicians checked microphones. More than 800 people filled the auditorium. Officers, dispatchers, city managers, technology vendors, instructors, and community representatives from across the state. Dr. Helen Ward adjusted Mari's name card on the lectern. Marisol Bennett, Executive Director, Bennett Family Readiness Foundation, Community Design Advisor. Mari touched the bottom edge. "Thank you." Ward understood what she meant. "You earned every line." Mari looked through the curtain. Nathaniel sat near the back beside Sophia and Lena. He had offered to wear his uniform if the organizers wanted it. Mari had told him the room already had enough symbols of authority. He arrived in a grey suit instead. When Ward introduced her, there was no mention of 4 stars. Mari walked to the lectern carrying the blue folder. She began with the coffee. "Last winter, I stopped at a gas station because I was late to a scholarship dinner and convinced caffeine could solve that problem. It did not. The audience laughed. Mary told the story without replaying the most dramatic moments. She did not show body camera footage. She did not name Mercer. She described the system as a chain of ordinary decisions. A camera misread a character, a clerk followed unclear instructions. Dispatch chose a broad category, an old alert stayed visually prominent, verified information arrived, and people failed to give that new information enough weight. The most useful question we asked afterward was not, "Who can we blame for every part of this?" she said. It was, "Where could one person, one screen, or one sentence have interrupted the momentum?" Behind her, the presentation changed to an image of the old and new terminal layouts. "The correction is now louder than the warning," Mari said, "not because warnings are unimportant. Because verified information should be difficult to ignore." Then she spoke about Noah's training phrase, pause. "We have a verified match. We need to reassess." That sentence is not magic, Mari said. Its value is that it gives a junior person permission to protect the quality of a decision without turning disagreement into disrespect. Several instructors began taking notes. Marie closed the folder. But there is another lesson, and it matters beyond public safety. A good process cannot depend on everyone behaving perfectly. People are tired, they are late, they become confused, they explain things badly, they forget documents, they misunderstand questions. If a system works only when every human being inside it is calm, precise, and fully informed, then the system is designed for people who do not exist. The room became very quiet. Resilience in a system is the same as resilience in a person. It is not never being wrong. It is being able to receive new information without treating change as defeat. Mari looked toward Nathaniel. He was smiling. 5 minutes after my detention began, my husband's identity became part of the verification. People slowed down. I am grateful they did, but the work we have done since then is meant to make sure careful treatment begins earlier, with the facts, not with the importance of a name. She paused. The goal is not special treatment. The goal is reliable treatment. The applause began before she stepped away from the microphone. During questions, a reporter near the center aisle asked what Mari had expected. Did your marriage to General Bennett give this issue attention it might not otherwise have received? Mari did not hesitate. Yes. The direct answer seemed to surprise the room. Visibility came to me more easily because of my husband's career, she continued. Pretending otherwise would waste the point. I cannot control why a microphone was offered. I can control what I use it to say. The reporter lowered her pen, then raised it again. And what do you want people to hear? Mari smiled slightly. That nobody should need an impressive biography for accurate information to matter. After the session, Helen Ward found Mari in the hallway surrounded by participants. The 3-county pilot, she explained, had completed its initial review. Training evaluations showed stronger recognition of conflicting records and more consistent supervisor consultation. The board had voted that morning to recommend the verification pause model for broader adoption across participating agencies. It's guidance, not a mandate, Ward said. But it's a start. Mari looked at the printed summary. A start is enough. Her phone buzzed. Lena had sent a message even though she was standing less than 50 feet away. I changed my college essay. Mari typed back, "Should I be worried?" Lena replied, "I'm writing about how good leaders change their minds when the facts change." Mari looked across the hallway. Lena raised one hand and grinned. Nathaniel joined Mari a moment later. Ready to celebrate? Define celebrate. Dinner, packing. Airport tomorrow? Mari remembered. Cebu. For months, every milestone had led to another meeting, another review, another reason to keep working. This time, the next step was a plane ticket and 2 weeks with family. Mari took his arm. Yes, she said. I'm ready. 1 year after the coffee stop in Redwood Junction, Mari was late to another scholarship dinner. This time the reason was entirely her own. She had changed shoes twice, misplaced her phone under a stack of travel documents, and spent 10 unnecessary minutes deciding whether the blue folder belonged in her handbag. Nathaniel waited near the front door with his jacket over one arm. For historical accuracy, he said, I should remind you that last year's problems began with you being late. Mari appeared from the hallway holding 2 pairs of earrings. For marital accuracy, I should remind you that commentary is optional. He checked his watch. We have 23 minutes. Plenty of time. That sentence also feels historically dangerous. Mari laughed and chose the smaller earrings. The year had changed many things without changing their everyday life. Nathaniel still left reading glasses in 3 rooms at once. The rosemary plant still grew faster than either of them could use it. Sophia still sent foundation messages marked urgent when she really meant interesting, but the blue folder had become thicker. Inside were the original scholarship speech, Mercer's letter, the state pilot summary, a photograph of the redesigned terminal screen, and a copy of the 1-page guide Janice had written for Valley Fuel. Mari kept all of it, not as evidence but as a record of movement. The pilot had expanded gradually. Some agencies adopted the full training module. Others used only parts of it. The State Board continued collecting feedback and changing the material. Mari attended fewer meetings now. That had been intentional. She had never wanted the worst hour of an ordinary evening to become her permanent occupation. Chief Whitfield sent updates every few months. Noah Reed was mentoring newer officers during scenario training. His favorite exercise, according to the chief, was the one that required a junior person to interrupt a senior person's assumption with verified information. Grant Mercer had completed his administrative review, training, and supervised return to regular duties. Whitfield's final note about him was brief. No repeated decision-making concerns, strong participation in after-action reviews, continuing mentorship requirement. Mari read that sentence twice and then closed the email. She did not need Mercer to become a symbol of failure forever. She needed the lesson to outlive the failure. Janice had been promoted to assistant manager at Valley Fuel. Tom claimed it was because she had become impossible to defeat in arguments about procedures. That made Mari smile. The foundation had changed too. Lena Park was finishing her first year of college and had taken a part-time summer internship with the county administration office. Her application essay about leadership and changing one's mind had earned a handwritten note from an admissions reader. Now 12 new scholarship recipients waited in a hotel ballroom in Fairfield, the same annual event Mari had been traveling toward when her life took its unexpected detour. They arrived with 9 minutes to spare. At the registration table, Sophia handed Nathaniel a name tag. He looked at it. Nathaniel Bennett, Mari's husband. He raised an eyebrow. Sophia smiled sweetly. We value accurate identification. Mari laughed so hard she had to put one hand on the table. Nathaniel placed the badge on his jacket without complaint. Finally, he said, recognition appropriate to my role. The ballroom filled with families, students, volunteers, and the soft noise of chairs moving over carpet. There were no reporters, no city officials, no training board staff. Nobody had come because of Redwood Junction. Mari was grateful. Before dinner, Lena found her near the stage. Did you bring the speech? Mari lifted the blue folder. The original? Almost. Lena narrowed her eyes. You changed it. I had a year. That's cheating. That's editing. College will teach you the difference. When Mari's name was called, she walked onto the stage and looked at the 12 students seated near the front. For a moment, she remembered the coffee cup on the Lexus roof, the white canopy, and the certainty that she was going to miss something important. She had missed that dinner. She had not missed the purpose of it. Mari opened the folder. Last year I wrote a speech about plans, she began. I was going to tell 12 students that good plans create good futures. Then I had a day that made that speech feel slightly dishonest. A few people laughed. Plans matter, she continued. Preparation matters. Work matters. But sooner or later, every one of you will meet information you did not expect. A plan will fail. A person will misunderstand you. You will misunderstand someone else. A system you trusted will give you the wrong answer. Sometimes you will be the person who made the wrong call. The room became still. Your character will not be measured only by whether you were right the first time. It will be measured by what you do when truth asks you to change direction. Mari looked toward Lena. There is strength in standing your ground when the facts support you. There is also strength in moving when they do not. Those two kinds of courage are not opposites. They come from the same place, respect for what is true over what is comfortable. Nathaniel sat beside Sophia, wearing his ridiculous name tag with complete dignity. Mari smiled. And one more thing. Do not confuse being useful with being worthy. Many of you come from families that have learned to adapt, serve, move, help, organize, and begin again. Those are beautiful qualities, but you are allowed to build a life that contains joy with no practical purpose at all. Visit people you miss. Learn something because you love it. Take the trip you keep postponing. Buy the coffee because you want the coffee. Nathaniel nodded slowly. Their suitcases were already packed for the flight they had rescheduled after the summit the previous year, then postponed once more because of his calendar. This time nothing was moving the date. Tomorrow morning they were finally leaving for Cebu. Mari closed the folder. A detour can change you without owning you. A mistake can teach you without defining you. And a difficult moment can become useful without becoming the most important thing about your life. The applause rose warmly through the ballroom. Afterward, students gathered around Mari with questions about college, moving away from home, career choices, and whether changing majors counted as changing direction. Nathaniel waited until the crowd thinned. That was better than last year's speech, he said. You never heard last year's speech. Exactly. Very low bar. She slipped her hand into his. Later, at home, Mari set the blue folder on her desk instead of packing it. Nathaniel stood in the doorway with the suitcases. Not bringing it? Mari looked at the folder. For months it had traveled with her to meetings, reviews, training sessions, and speeches. It held the history of an evening that had surprised her and the work that followed. But tomorrow required different things. A passport, a boarding pass, a gift for her aunt, comfortable shoes. No, she said. It can stay here. Nathaniel smiled. Mari turned off the office light. The story had begun when people moved too quickly because they thought they already understood what they were seeing. It ended not with perfect people or perfect systems, but with something more durable. People willing to pause, listen, correct themselves, and continue. Mari had learned the same lesson in a different way. Resilience was not returning to the person she had been before Redwood Junction. It was carrying forward what mattered and putting down what did not. Sometimes a life is changed by 5 unexpected minutes, but it is shaped by the quiet decisions made in all the minutes that come after.